the war song of the last war. The young soldiers of 1939 still march to its undying strains. Tipperary is one of those links between the last generation of warriors and the present, between the millions who won through to victory in 1918 and the millions who will fight through to the dawn of another armistice. In peacetime, Parliament passed a Conscription Act. As events moved tragically to their climax, the government put through a measure which no British government had ever proposed before, and ordained that the young men of the country should enroll for national service. So was instituted the training of militiamen of 20 and 21, supplementing the regular forces and volunteer territorials. This peace-loving nation, whose boast had always been the voluntary system, adopted conscription in evidence of her resolve, in proof of her determination to meet the menace of aggression. The young men of Britain began their training for the heavy destiny ahead of them. The historic hour of Mr. Chamberlain's announcement that Britain was at war with Germany. The armed forces had already been called up. Men stood by at the anti-aircraft guns for the onslaught which Britain expected from the sky. The incomparable Navy, in association with the French Marine, assumed control of the sea. And the gallant Royal Air Force began those reconnaissances of Germany and raids on military objectives which stirred the admiration of the world. But everybody knew that Britain had one great object beyond these others, which she must fulfill before her dispositions were complete. The British Army must take its stand beside the Army of France on the soil of France, where it stood 25 years before. So, in great secrecy, commenced the movement of troops across the Channel. From one port or another, in carefully concealed numbers, under cover sometimes of darkness, the expeditionary force embarked. There was no great parade to bid them farewell. Publicity was absent from this dramatic event when the sons of their fathers took boat to the same battlefield. Tommy left home, and the transport slipped quietly and successfully across the water into French ports. The dramatic moment when they set foot on French soil, that too was wrapped in secrecy. The U-boat must not know where they came from, how they came, or where they arrived. Only the people of the port were there to wave and bid them welcome, and Brother Poilu was there with a handshake and a glad to see you back, old chap, as they marched to their billets in hospitable France. One unit from Britain enjoyed a public reception during this operation of moving the BEF. The Welsh Guards marched through Paris. They came from service in Egypt, and Parisians had the chance to cheer and lionize the tall, hardened warriors of the King's Household Brigade as they swung along the famous thoroughfare. But mostly it was this sort of progress, enveloped in waterproof capes, humping a bulky burden of equipment, tramping in formation of threes along the roads between the beet fields, the British Expeditionary Force marched to its place in the line of resistance allocated by General Gamelin. In loyal identity of purpose, the Army of Britain under General Lord Gort was committed to the supreme direction of the French Generalissima. To the British, it now fell to complete the fortification of the northern frontier. Between the blockhouses constructed by French engineers, Tommy and Jock set to work digging trenches and building tank traps and wiring long stretches of the countryside. All the paraphernalia necessary to maintaining an army in the field had to be established behind the line, such as huge petrol dumps and supply depots camouflaged in woods, yet easy of access. New road surfaces to carry the extra wear and tear had to be built. And new railway tracks laid, for the servicing from England of the British troops placed a great strain on the existing system, and the organization had to be capable of expanding to cater for more and more men as they arrived. Behind the forward line of defenses, the guns were brought into position, and many a strange scene was witnessed among the quiet farmyards and coppices where the artillery concealed itself. Within a few weeks, a modern, compact army was deployed, ready to move forward if need be, or to stand and man the trenches and guns on the prepared front. Then began the tedious period of waiting while keeping fit both in body and mind for the day of trial. Concert parties have been but rare interludes for a few lucky soldiers. The chief diversion for most of them has been the letter from home. The British Army came to France for the purpose of war, and its days have been devoted to the supreme duty of being ready for the test when it comes. So the time has been spent in perfecting training by the infantry on their various weapons, such as the mortars, the Bren gun, and the anti-tank rifle. By the tank battalions in accustoming their speedy vehicles to the muddy terrain of the border country. By the engineers in bridging and all other intricate tasks which an army demands of its skilled pioneers. By the artillery in rapid transport and concealment of their batteries, practicing observation and gun drill. Assuredly, the British Expeditionary Force has not been idle, but it has had its moments of relaxation, as when His Majesty King George VI arrived to tour the British area. Then the roads of France were lined with cheering soldiers, and guards of honor turned out to welcome the sovereign whose example of service to the community is so great an inspiration to his people. Old-timers thought back to the visits which his father, beloved George V, paid to that other expeditionary force. Before he left France, the King reviewed joint columns of French and British marching behind one another in battle array and symbolizing the amity and concord of the two nations. And so finally to the Maginot Line. Here on reconnaissance and raid, British units assigned to sectors of the French front make contact with the enemy. Tommy has finished his apprenticeship for the great task ahead. In the vigilance of outpost duty, in the hazards of patrols, British soldiers are facing and fighting the Germans. While the first comers thus settle down to their task, transports still cross the Channel, bringing fresh battalions to swell the growing ranks. The British Army in the last war numbered 5 million men. The British effort in this war will be worthy of the cause, the greatest cause for which men can fight. The hosts are gathering. An empire has sprung to arms. Its gallant manhood marches through the roads of France, singing a new song in the old spirit.